Good morning. In this second week of Advent Unpacked, we have been reflecting on the ways that Advent is very different from Christmas and how it ought to be disruptive and it ought to slow us down and we ought to take advantage of the wisdom of, starting in the 4th century, the move towards this church calendar, but really developing in the Middle Ages. It's something that causes us to reflect and to rehearse and to be about waiting, looking backwards and embracing some of the frustrations that were being felt by the Jews before the arrival of the Messiah, and then looking ahead and wondering how much longer do we await. So one of the things that I want to try and capture here, if I can, is one of the ways that Advent has changed for me. So if you've been at Christ Church for some period of time, you have undoubtedly heard me whine about Christmas. It's a very selfish whining, but it is. It was sort of, didn't see this coming. But as a pastor, Christmas is coming all the time, and if you're trying to spend a month every year reflecting on Advent, you're like, what else can I say? I need something new. I need a different angle. I need something fresh, right? I used to say I've preached Christmas from every conceivable vantage point, including through the eyes of the camel in the nativity scene. It's like I'm trying to come up with some way to help break through and get people's attention who have heard this story over and over. Well, one of the things that happened and is that there is a beauty and a power and a majesty that comes in a simplicity on the other side of complexity, if that makes sense. So there's a book, I'm not recommending it, it's an academic book I found very hard to read, called Stages of Faith by a professor, James Fowler. And in much the same way you talk about, Piaget's stages or Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development or whatever else it is, Fowler talked about stages of faith. And this was not just stages of Christian development. This is just stages of a sort of epistemological framework development. So when you're a little kid, our granddaughter, you are telling them what to believe. You're saying your name is, you tell them their name, and this is the color blue, and this letter is number 3, and that's called a tree, and you're explaining all these things, and they just believe it, right? I mean, you can tell them that color is red when it's blue, and they would believe it because they're just, on the basis of their parents' authority, they're just assuming, okay, this is what I believe. Stage 1 in Fowler's paradigm. And then stage 2 comes when you start to disassociate from your parents and there's other sources of authority, teachers or books or other people, and you move into a different, where you're believing things based on your own experiences and a broader swath of life. So some people never move out of stage 2. Others move, and oftentimes in college, will move into a stage 3 where they start to question everything again. And it can be a disruptive time. And the stages between stage 1 and 2 and stages 2 and 3 and stages 3 and 4 can be a long. As a matter of fact, some people could just leave stage 2 and never make it to stage 3. But you're rethinking everything, and you get exposed to new ideas or people that don't believe what you believe, and you're like, oh, how do I know what I believe? So there's this stage 3, and you can put things together, and I'm doing grave injustice to Fowler's theory, but you put things together and they can be relatively complex. There is also another stage, and I don't buy everything he says about stage 4, but there can be a simplicity in stage 4. And I remember, this is, quite a while ago, but being struck by the fact that the people who I was looking up to thought had a very robust, dynamic, mature faith in Christ. And I would ask them questions I ask many people. What are you reading? What are you thinking about? Who are you listening to? What are your devotions in? What are you learning? What are you hearing from Jesus, right? And what I noticed is that a lot of these people would say things like, I'm learning about grace. I'm learning about the cross. I'm reflecting on, the resurrection. I'm reflecting, and there's a sense in which I would think, well, duh, I've already learned about grace, right? I've already learned about the cross. I've already reflected on the resurrection. And then you come back and realize, oh, what was I thinking? Not even 1% am I there. Like there's so much more wonder and mystery and depth and beauty that can come from these things. So I want to commend to you the Incarnation and Advent. There's a lot there. If you will slow down and step into this and look at this, just the amazingly earth-shattering good news that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And the amazing thing is that Son showed up. He set aside the glory and honor and trappings of heaven in order to take this assignment, to enter time and space through a virgin's womb, to make himself vulnerable. And he did that on this rescue mission. He did that to fulfill all the promises that God had made, going all the way back to Genesis 3, and that first proclamation that I'm going to send with the seed of woman who is going to crush the head of evil. He will be struck in his heel. He will be wounded, but he will crush and defeat evil. It's an amazing claim. There's a lot there. I hope you will reflect on that today, and that you have a good day.